This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make your next move with Squarespace. This is a pretty simple modular headboard that you can build with less than one sheet of plywood. I'm making it to finish off the modular bed that I built for my son a few months back. This will conclude the modular kids bed portion of this channel's programming. For now. So I started off by cross-cutting my sheet of plywood into a piece that's about an inch longer than the longest piece I would need it to yield. This got the piece to where it was just small enough to where I felt comfortable handling it on my table saw. The first couple cuts you see me making here on the table saw are really just rough cuts again. I'm breaking it down further so that the chunks are small enough that I can handle them and get clean finished cuts from here on. The framework of the headboard is made up of a bunch of 3-inch wide strips of wood in 3 different lengths. So in these shots, I'm cutting a bunch of strips that I can cut to length later. So here's the way that the bed comes together. There are 2 shorter vertical pieces and 9 longer horizontal pieces. 4 of the horizontal pieces are about 6 inches longer than the others, so it creates this kind of staggered look where the pieces are offset by 3 inches on either side. I think this kind of just gives it a little bit more visual interest than if you were to keep it straight on the sides. The horizontal pieces are spaced about 3/4 of an inch apart so that the shelves in the box can slide in and out and you can put them wherever you want to. Alright, let's get back to the build. With all of the strips cut to width, I started in on the length. I measured out 68 inches for the shorter horizontal pieces and 74 inches for the longer pieces. To make the cuts, I used my miter saw. I pretty much just lined up the pieces on one side and clamped everything down to make the cut. With this design, none of the pieces are interlocking, and there are gaps between them all, so it really isn't that important that they be perfectly the same length. They just need to be close enough that your eye can't tell. Using this method will definitely get you within that threshold. Next, I lined up all of my shorter pieces and all of my longer pieces to make a mark on each side for where they should hit the vertical piece. That way when I go to assemble it, everything will line up nicely on the edges. During the assembly, I made sure to spend some extra time getting the first horizontal piece attached to the 2 vertical pieces as perfectly as possible. Everything else is kind of based or built off of this piece, so the more time you spend here getting this part just right, the less you're going to spend trying to fix things later. So with those pieces good to go, I could really fly through the rest of the assembly. I got everything put together using glue and brads to start. You can see that I'm using a couple little pieces of the plywood here as a spacer while I put each piece in. This way all of the gaps will look perfectly consistent and they'll be just the right size for the aforementioned shelves and boxes to slide right in. After a few minutes, I came back and screwed each piece down so that everything was good and tight. So with the actual headboard out of the way, I moved on to the shelves and the boxes. Here I'm cutting out a strip that will eventually be used for the shelves and for back pieces to secure the shelves. And the bigger piece will be used for the box. By the way, a couple weeks ago I started a podcast with my buddies Mike over at Modern Builds and Ben at Homemade Modern. It's called the Modern Maker Podcast, and each week we talk about making things, designing, YouTubing, and a host of other things related to what we do. Give it a listen. It's really fun and I think you'll dig it. I'll throw a link to our website below, or just search for it wherever you listen to podcasts. So before I went any further, right here I made the two side pieces and the bottom piece about 3/4 of an inch shorter than the top piece. The extra width on the top piece will overhang the back of the box and will fit perfectly between the gaps of the headboard, so that the box can attach to the headboard wherever you want to put it. Finally, before gluing the box together, I put a rabbet on the two side pieces and the bottom. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. Hope you like what you're seeing, and if you do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks. Here you can see how it fits in. It's actually pretty sturdy, but I'll put a little piece on the back so that the only way it can come out is by sliding it laterally. Then I went ahead and made the shelves. This part is optional, but I use my router table to round over most of the edges on the pieces. I'd say there's a pretty good chance that faces, limbs, and heads will bump into these things over the course of the next few years, and I'd really hate for the edges to suffer any damage when the inevitable happens. I want to take a second to thank all of my Patreon members. New to the list this month are Jason, Mark, Mike, Jeffrey, Bob, Joe, Christian, Brandon, Matt, and Abernathy Green, with an extra special thanks going to Chase Green. You guys are really helping me to see green, both literally and figuratively. Now, I know I say it every month, and I know this is a bed project, but I ain't lying when I say thank you. If you want to know how you can support the show too, there's a link in the description. And as always, no pressure. I really like the simplicity, look, and function of this kind of headboard. I even made a larger king-size one for our bed a couple years ago. I think it might be hard to get it to really come across in a video though. It's especially hard to get good finished shots of it. If I had to change one thing about it, I'd probably build a much larger house and room to go around it, so I could get far away from it with my camera to do it justice. But until that day, I'll just have to keep dreaming. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I just wanted to take a second to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. So I've actually used Squarespace for a few different websites that I've needed in the past. In fact, the podcast that I mentioned earlier in the episode, well, that website was built and is hosted using Squarespace. So if you're looking to create a new website, or even if you have an existing one, I'd seriously urge you to consider checking them out. They have really great award-winning templates, awesome 24/7 customer service, and whether you're looking to make a website for an online portfolio, a restaurant, or pretty much anything, they'll have something that's perfect for you. So right now you can start your free trial if you visit squarespace.com/4eyes, and you'll receive 10% off your first purchase. Seriously, go check them out. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.